Number 3 of Day 9 Daily number 436, where we learn to be a better gamer. I'm trying to mat down the hair, and it's been highly effective. Look at that. All I had to do was bear paw it. Yeah. Oh, excellent. Ooh, I even have like the whoosh of the hair. Cool. In the end of part number 2, we asked ourselves, in this particular circumstance, what would be the big goal for Axslav? What would be the big goal of his? What's he going for? And what we want to try to do is we want to try to answer that. In the chat, there are a lot of people saying a lot of different cool ideas. We want to add more gateways right now and then do a big push so we can replenish it and go for a win. We can do something like try to secure a 4th base. I heard kill off overlords, supply block them, because die, Zerg. Totally great to tilt your opponent. Here's what I think is a great way to play off this situation. Here's what I would like to do a lot, and what we're going to see Axslav do. He is up against a super mobile force of Mutiling. In general, what makes Mutiling strong is counterattack. What we're going to see Axslav do is he's just going to deny the 4th bases again and again and again, and he's going to start expanding rapidly. We're not really going to see Axslav do that much pushing towards the Zerg player. Primarily, what we're going to see this Protoss player do is expand and hang out. So here, he spots an expand. We see the gravitic boosters. For any of you who do not know, the gravitic booster upgrade researched at the good old robotics support bay is the observer speed upgrade. Seems like a little bit of an unusual upgrade, but when you're up against a player who's going Mutiling, the ability to cover wide distances quickly while not tying up your robo facilities with observer production is essential. We want to keep these robo facilities making good units, not observers. So let's make our existing observers better. Plus, gravitic boosters are just not that. They're just not that expensive. The better one is the gravitic drive, which is the warp prism speed upgrade. So look at Axslav. He is actually just locking down the center and having his stalkers move around the map defensively. More importantly, how is he spending his minerals? Not on gateways, but on photon cannons. He's also going to be warping in a couple of zealots to do some dirty work over the expansion. All the while taking up another nexus. The one question that might float in your mind is, well, what if some sort of Broodlord tech started coming up? This is where having just really good timing sense is both difficult and essential. It's important to just kind of know at this point in time that a player who's building that many Mutalisks generally can't have a layer up right now. But starting around 1730 is a good time to begin really being aware that a hive could come up, really for any composition. Now, just as essential to this build order, we have a couple of tech path choices. Where are they? One is the Dark Shrine, essential in my eyes. Fleet Beacon, essential in my eyes. You must get these two as you are moving out to another base. How are you spending the money? I would say that these are gas investments, Dark Shrine and Fleet Beacon. The money investment still not on gateways. Against a Mutalisk Zergling player, your units crush his army. So you don't really need to make that many more units. You don't want to crush his army, build a whole bunch so you can very crush his army. You just need to be able to win against it. Getting the photon cannons up is pretty important. But we see Axslav just continuing to step out into mid-map, demolishing the army. Again, we knew that that's what would happen. Taking another base. Look at this rapid expansion. Axslav is doing this largely because he's against a Mutiling player. Versus Mutiling, rapid explosions of bases after the initial 3 are great. If you're up against a roaching player, sure, you can still do these shutdowns on these expansions. How would you kill this expansion if you're against a roaching player? Easy. We take this whole army, we plant it here-ish with control of the watchtower, and that's when we move over here with our 5 zealots, our 6 zealots. And then we keep this army positioned in mid to block it and to crush it. Lots of expanding. Axslav rapidly gobbling up the whole map, killing off these destructible rocks, continuing to have these observers move around in brilliant formations. Stalkers blinking, blocking down everything. And this is tournament play from Axslav. Why is this... so this is tournament play from Axslav. This is good decision making on the fly. Under a lot of pressure. So this is super impressive. But Axslav, the reason he can kind of more comfortably move to this expansion is because he knows where the Mutalisks are. But even then, I think that this is unnecessary, bringing everything up, because this is always a threat. Notice how the most awful position we've seen Axslav be in the entire game is when he overcommitted and overextended his units. For the last 5 minutes or so, they've largely been parked here with a couple units going this way and that sort of thing. This is the way Axslav should have dealt with this expansion in the first place. The instant he brought his whole army, he loses a full base. Only after Axslav was getting up to 5 bases and had really cannoned himself up, only then is he adding on more gateways and this additional forge. Only then. We see Axslav moving forward here a little bit. This is not entirely necessary. This is obviously going to do a hell of a lot of damage, but again, not necessary. The important thing is that Zerg has no bases other than his 3, and we're at 4. So really, we're playing the waiting game. And we should be playing the mothership game pretty soon here as well. Yeah, there's the fleet beacon finishing. There's the mothership popping out.
I am here in the shadows.
Replenishing stalkers intuitively, continuing to patrol. Great. Hanging out. Ever watched Liquid Hero play on Tal'Darim Altar against some crazy, wicked, strong, mutilinging players? Just expands, chills, kills off bases, comes back. And look at all these gateways going down. These are late as hell. These 9 gateways... Oops. Let me see. These 9 gateways were really only built after the 20-minute mark, after Axslav was thinking in 5 base turns. Other than that, just patrolling, checking out, staying still. We got the money army. It would kill a Roach Hydra player who was transitioning to Brewlords. We could kill him right at the 17-minute mark. Since we're against Mutiling, we play passive, and we crush. I would say the last, most final step of all that we see Axslav doing quite cleverly is 1, getting Zealot with leg speed, and 2, getting Templar Archives. This could have been constructed earlier for a little bit of Stormers, but what a wonderful, delightful late game demonstration we saw from Axslav. I want to review really fast some of these core ideas to this plan document that we had up right here. This is a very long-form plan, a very simple-to-state plan. Let's watch it in action. As we times 8, we're going to go for an early expand. It is not necessary to be aggressive. Not at all necessary to be aggressive, as we can see that I wrote down. Axslav, incidentally, does decide to be aggressive, but this doesn't change any of the rest of his important plan. Next is Stargate Sentries +1 attack. Stargate, Sentries, +1 attack is actually done already, as we can see here. What's next in our plan? Well, 4 warp gates total, a robo, and the last is Twilight. 4 warp gates total, a robo, and then the last thing to build is a Twilight down here. Boom. What's the next thing we get? We get an expand, we get blink, and +2 attack. Expand. Blink. Come on, blink. +2 attack, right there, queued up and ready to rock. What's the last thing we get? More gateways, Colossi. More gateways than Colossi. Fantastic. Despite this crazy play that Axslav did, despite the Mutalisk pressure he's been under, easily just switching right on back to this nice mixture of Stalker, Sentry, Immortal, Colossus. Also important to note in this late game period, the prevalence of building cannons instead of gateways. And now that he has seen he's up against a Mutalisking player, 6 gateways, more than enough. All we need to do is take more bases against a Mutalisking player and play a little bit more carefully. The Gravitic Drive, the Observer Speed upgrade, helps out a ton in terms of spotting for Mutalisks. As a final step, the Fleet Beacon, the Dark Shrine, and overall general defense. But, as we saw here, don't get too overeager to bring your whole army to kill off an expansion, because counterattacking is your worst enemy against a player going from you to win. My god, the clarity of this daily was paramount. Alright, let me go to Markio's infamous question grabber. Haha. Clear. Alright, F5. Come on, question grabber. Grab some questions. Hear that button? That's the F5 button, Marky. Marky. Ah! Ah. Ah. Mwah. Mwah. Great question from Corsono37. Day 9, how do you think the style performs against the 12-minute max roach push? Let's go ahead and take a look at that 12-minute mark right now. Doink. Now, one thing to note, here, as we step into the 12-minute mark, it's very easy to go, oh my god, in the unit counting station, he has only 7 sentries and 3 stalkers. He'll never defeat a maxed army. However, here is the benefit of the Void Rays. Twofold. For one, a maxed Roach Ling army can't shoot up. The Void Ray will easily be able to do a lot of damage to it, helping with the defense. But more importantly, we see 4 Hydralisks, we see 4 Queens, we see 1 Spore, 2 Spore, 3 Spore. That's actually an incredibly low amount of Spore Crawlers, but still Empire Violet is going to have a very hard time getting to that max Roach push. So it's actually a twofold answer. One, he's not really ever going to have a 12-minute max Roach push because he has to have built not Roaches previously to stay alive against air. But more importantly, we have the Sentry energy so high, we have the Void Rays there, we have Immortals and Stalkers, everything is in place, the Force Fields are all we need. As long as we're good Force Fielders, we'll be in great shape. We've seen a lot of players do this. Let me see. A lot of questions that are cropping up are, how does a Zerg player deal with this? For that, I would love it if you looked up the Stefano Zerg vs. Protoss daily that I did not long ago. Was it 426? Day 9 daily Stefano. 429. 429 is the one it is. So yeah, check that one out. All right, let's see here. A lot of people asking from the Zerg point of view. All the Zerg point of view questions, daily number 429. Let me see. Here's good questions from F. Cernar, or is it F. Sumaru or F. Cernaru? I don't know. RN looks identical to M in this typeface. How do I deal with an early Roach bust? Quite honestly, if we were to come back to this plan document that I was looking at earlier on, this part where it's Stargates and Sentries, we focus a lot more on here, and if there's a Roach play, what we do is get a lot more cannons. The Sentries are going to help us stay alive. The cannons will be the second line defense to sort of seal everything down. And a Stargate with a fast Void Ray will completely shut down any future aggression from him. Most importantly, though, this little adjustment does not affect that this is what you should do next, and then this, and then this. That is the number one thing I want you to walk away with. Let me see here. Let's just go ahead and take 2 more questions. Now, Super Acid asks a very reasonable question. I lost it. Could a Warp Prism play be incorporated, as there is a Stargate built so early? I would say that it is possible, but don't do it. Totally don't. It's very easy to become addicted to figuring out new and more diverse ways to attack. Like, first I'm going to hit him with Hellions, and then Marines, and then a drop, and then a tank push. Remember, you don't have to do a lot of attacks. You just have to do one game-winning attack. And that's instead what I want you to focus on with this build order. I want you to be focusing on that attack that happens at 17 minutes, not one that will happen at 12 or 13 minutes, or even 8, or with your Stargate units coming out. I want you to focus on the 17-minute or later attack. because it's very easy to get in the habit of sending out too many forces. Too easy for the opponent to kill off in small numbers, and then you end up falling apart. Elfie has done some Warp Prism Stargate plays that have won games, but they've also lost games very easily, as it's tough to control. So I would just steer you clear of that. I'm going to take one more question. Huh. IVS Courage says, as a Protoss, I'm having trouble against Infestor Broodlord. What is the best way to stop that? This, I think, is a relevant question. It might not seem relevant because it seems like it's a compositional question as opposed to relating to this strategy specifically. But this strategy thwarts it quite nicely in that a Protoss player will typically, or a Zerg player will typically end up being right at the juncture of transitioning up to Broodlords right when you attack. That's the big benefit of this 3-base push, is that it hits the Zerg player when he's a little bit vulnerable against this kind of mix. That is a good way to indirectly deal with it. We shut it down before it ever gets going. But let's say you have this 3-base force. You have mainly Colossus with Stalker, and he has a pretty big Infestor Broodlord force. There's some counterintuitive control techniques that help a lot. For one, you want your Colossi to be on the front line. So if we have the Stalker Ball, let's say the Zerg army's over here, where we see Tomo the Sphere Bear up here. Let's say he is like the Zerg army. We'll generally be having our Colossus kind of at the back line here, shooting over the Stalkers. But instead, I want you to have your Colossus right at the front to be picking off the Infestors. And then when the Broodlords start raining in, then you can back up a little bit. You only need to be 2 inches behind the Stalkers to shoot at the Broodlings behind. You don't need to be 10 feet behind them. That's the number one most important way to kill off all those duders, all the Broodlings, and the Infestors at once, to do that sort of juking. Also, when you have these Colossi at the front lines, this opens up opportunities for blink unders. Mass Stalker actually crushes Broodlords pretty nicely, as long as you can get a good blink under. And the way to do that is with the leading Colossus. Other ways that are important to deal with it in an indirect fashion are to get more Warp Prisms up. By steering towards Broodlord Infestor, all of his gas are on the 2 slowest units Zerg really has, the Broodlord and the Infestor. So you can easily do big warp-ins with different locations on the map, and it's tough to deal with as a Zerg player. Like, really, really tough to deal with, because what are you going to send? Zerglings? Well, you're warping in 3-1 Zealots, so it's going to be a little rough for the Zergy player. The next other thing is to make certain that you're getting that mothership tech up. Motherships are just an uncanny good. Even if you don't have Archons, one Vortex sucks in all the units. You get your Colossi in position, the Vortex comes up, boom, you've immediately killed off all his Infestors with just 2 or 3 swipes of the Colossi. Bam, blink under with the Stalkers, and deflam, you've killed off all your Broodlords. That may have been the most complete answer to anything I've ever given. Until next time, guys, go be merry. 2 important announcements. Subscriber Mana Battles on Sunday. Subscriber Mana Battles at 8 p.m., not 7, 8 p.m. And last but not least, Fun Day Monday next week, the Team Mana Battles, where you and 3 of your allies participate in a 3v3 or 4v4, where you declare exactly 1 unit that you will be building for the entire game long. Then you just play it out. Also, please play on the public server. Don't play any private matches. I want to see you against strangers. Also, you must announce publicly, including to the other team. The other team has to know what you're doing. Please submit those to Monday at day9.tv. I'm done. You guys were wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. I thought this was... I'm really, really, really happy with how this daily went. Yeah, all right, woohoo. Just as a brief aside, I don't just like say I'm really happy with how this daily went, because it's one of those weird things where, because I'm on the show all the time, like every day, it's very easy for me to just be perceived as like just a sort of like not a person, like a thing that just sort of arrives like the morning mail, like the newspaper man. He just delivers it and he's just part of a system. But indeed, if I am not doing a good daily, I feel it as I'm doing the daily. The whole hour, I'm like, oh my god, I could have done this better. So, with many, many, many hundreds of failures over the course of 436 episodes, I hope you don't mind if I celebrate after a daily that I thought went well. Of course, if you thought it sucked, please send me the feedback to feedback@day9.tv. Your feedback is always instrumental, though I do get around 2,500 to 3,000 emails a day. Believe me that like everything gets read in some way, shape, or form and sent to me, so I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Thank you a lot. You guys are great. Woo! Cheers!